lately there's been a ton of success from the team around marketing, using performance marketing to drive towards your profile. So
Mhm.
traditionally, you would run your performance ads to Spotify directly, to a landing page aggregator of sorts, or to a merch page, or to a product page or something. You'd have a pixel on there and you'd retarget off that. But
Mhm.
we've had a ton of success lately with running in Instagram ads to profile visits and then optimizing the profile for slow conversion and then running a
Mhm.
second ad campaign that retargets visitors to your Instagram account. So
Okay.
the way you optimize it is you optimize your bio, obviously. You make sure you have a decent profile picture, obviously, but you also have 3 pinned posts, and most people just post the most popular posts, the
Mhm.
flex on them type vibe of like the most views, even though it could just be you patting your dog and no one really gives a shit about you, they give a shit about your dog, and that's not a
Yeah.
great conversion mechanism, right? It's
Yeah.
clickbaity and it's not going to convert people to want to stay with you long term. So great, 3 videos. One first video is an about you video, a small looping video that's literally just on a loop with text over the top, just telling people who the hell you are. Second one is
Mhm.
why you do what you do. So if you're a running company, talk about how you were fat, unhealthy, unsure on yourself, and you started running and your whole life changed. And this is your purpose for being, and you want to assist people in that. And one of the best ways to do that was creating apparel. I don't know,
Mhm.
but give a reason why you're doing what you're doing. If you're a musician, why are you a musician? Why
Mhm.
should someone care about you as opposed to the abundance of other people they can listen to? And then the third
Mhm.
video, flex on them. You know, show them
Yeah.
how epic your vocal is if you're an artist. Show them how many reviews and stuff that you have as a brand. You know,
Got
show
it.
them the byproduct of your why. So start off
Mhm.
with who you are, about you, and then you have the why you exist, why your product is out there in the world, product being also music. And then third piece, flex.
Flex.
Convert people to be like, damn, this human being is incredibly talented at whatever they're doing. So those 3 posts
Wow.
pinned at the top, traffic driving towards there, your CPMs and definitely your CPC will fall through the floor because you're keeping people on platform, which is exactly what Instagram wants you to do. Ensure you're
Mhm.
posting decent content relatively consistently, and you will watch people convert to followers on Instagram, and they will also explore you through your link in bio voluntarily instead of driving people off a 2 to 3 dimensional platform in Instagram where you have someone visually stimulated by a video and also audio stimulated. And then you're going to ask them to then go to Spotify and just listen to a 3 minute song after they've just been profoundly entertained with an algorithm that's exceptional at maintaining attention over a long period of time. So
Mhm.
the mediums it's completely different. It's like
Mhm.
chalk and cheese. So asking them
Mhm.
to just go and stream your music is like it's like
Dead.
yelling into a vortex. No one's going to hear
Absolutely.
it. So
No.
that conversion mechanism doesn't work too well. If you're going to convert people by a pre-save, fine. But at the end of the day, no one knows who you are yet because you just served them with an ad. So why would they pre-save
Mhm.
anything without any value on the other side? So
Yeah.
I think especially in the music industry, artists have got to start thinking value first. You're not a charity. You're a business. You're a brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the value someone receives? I talk about this all the time. What is the value someone receives from buying with you? And when I say
Yeah.
buy, I don't mean physically spend money. I mean time. You're asking them for
Wholeheartedly.
time. That is the most finite
Attention.
resource we hold as human beings. And
Mhm.
you if you ask for that and if you beg for that, be valuable, be either really
Yeah.
good or have a good story to tell that allows them to frame what you're saying in your music, allow them to fall in love with you, have a different visual identity, have a really unique reason for being. Just be valuable is the name of the
Yeah.
game, and your conversion will skyrocket. So, in summary, drive ads towards your Instagram account, optimize the shit out of your Instagram account, be valuable whether you're a brand or you are a musician. And then the third piece is retarget everybody with cost effective retargeting ads for anyone that's been on your account in the last 7 days. and just keep serving people until they achieve a goal that you would like them to achieve, end up on the landing page or whatever. So that's my breakdown
Got
and
it. Talk
summary
to me.
of.
Talk to me like a dummy here. Like, let's say
Mhm.
if I'm stepping into the space and I'm a brand new artist, do you suggest that I build the profile a little bit so that people have something to come back to, or is it something that you say I push out the gates with this type of a strategy? If that question makes sense to you, like, is it something that I should have like a little bit of something to people come and explore on my page, or are you saying I just come out the gates swinging with? Essentially what you're saying is set up an advertisement to boost a post that then drives
Yep.
people back to the main profile,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So are you suggesting that I do this with a little bit of an established like palette already,
I think
or
it
is it
depends.
smart to
I
come
think
out
it
the gates?
depends on where you are most credible. Most of the time, artists are least credible on Spotify.
Mhm.
They have typically have a better social media following, whether that be TikTok or Instagram. And if you don't have a good
Mhm.
TikTok following, you don't have an engaging Instagram account, and you also don't have a high converting Spotify page. In terms of converting, there's only one number that really matters, which is your monthly listener number, and then the first song. How many
Mhm.
streams does that have?
Mhm. The
That's all
most
people are going to
popular
hit.
one.
Yeah, the most
Yeah.
popular track. Yeah. And maybe the most recent track. There's like 3 touch points people typically hit. So
Yeah.
there, most of the time, that's what's going to want to determine. There are some people that get lit up by great music and a low monthly listener number. They're an early adopter.
Mhm.
There's not many of
Mhm.
them. Definitely not. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
you're very like you got to understand that's more so a needle in a haystack unless you were
Mhm.
targeting correctly, and that's why I recommend ads out the gate, because targeting
Mhm.
correctly and running lookalike audiences off other artists that are not the top end of the tier of echelon of artists in your category,
Mhm.
but 2 or 3 tiers down from that. So those artists had people that found them first and they were early adopters, and they're looking for that next version. They're looking for
Mhm.
to say, I knew him when. So
Mhm.
the game is heavily focusing on that early adopter. And the best way to convert that is by picking one platform to be very good at. Whether it's TikTok
Mhm.
or Instagram, they're the best funnels in the music industry.
Mhm.
You funnel through that platform. You dominate that page, whether it's the strategy I mentioned can be used for both Instagram and TikTok. You just run TikTok ads or Instagram ads,
Is it
and you do exactly
exclusively
the
to
same thing.
Instagram and TikTok, or is it like a YouTube Shorts approach, or do you
You could do
just because
YouTube
you've
Shorts.
seen
I
those
just
two
haven't done
platforms?
it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like
And you've seen
I
those
haven't
two
done
be the
it.
most effective. Got it.
Yeah, and YouTube Shorts is like, it's. I don't mean this to sound bad, but it's kind of a dumb platform. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, even if you scroll on Shorts, you'll see a bunch of cat videos. Like
Yeah.
it's not. It's just it's like Instagram Reels early on. It's just learning.
Yeah.
It's going to take some
Yeah. It's
time.
not
It's
the
going to
most
be epically
optimized
amazing.
algorithm yet.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So to leverage to do what you're trying to do, which is find early adopters to fall in love with you, to become long-term fans, you're better off doing it on a platform with an epically amazing algorithm.
Yeah.
Especially Instagram's
Yeah.
algorithm lately. It's got way, way, way better since it transferred from
Yeah.
feeding to your current followers to feeding people that don't know you to determine if
Yeah.
that video has genuine traction. It's been a lot
Yeah.
better, but ultimately they're the 2 platforms to run up. To answer your question directly, if you don't have anything going on any 3 of those platforms, manufacture success. Pick one, double
Mm-hmm.
down, get it done.
Stick to it. Yeah.
Stick to it. Just pick one. Don't try and do it all. Just pick one, double down. I recommend for music, Instagram, because it's just a better conversion mechanism. TikTok is
Mm-hmm.
so one track hit and miss.
Yeah.
It's
I
just very
agree.
difficult to like maintain any level of traction on that. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't always recommend it. It's
Mm-hmm.
great for one hit virality, but it's hard to like build a community on there. Whereas Instagram has a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of tools and mechanisms to be able to hold attention on your platform. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be my recommendation. Pick one and run it up.
You just answered my
And
next question. So essentially, it's not a wait for one to hit and then boost that post, or it's kind of like a you keep. Is it something that's compelling to you, or is it something that the data and algorithm tells you is kind of starting to break before you boost it? So am I going with the video that's getting a little bit more views than the other ones, and am I going to boost that to bring it back? And does that correlate back to the 3-pin approach of what you're recommending in regards to the why, et cetera, et cetera? Or is it one of those where like I just feel good about this piece of content and I want to push it because my vocal sounds amazing on the video, for example?
Yeah, I'm more I have three different types of content that converts in that space. One is
Hmm.
high performing content that's on your page. Two,
Okay.
depending on how interesting your about you story is, that can
Hmm.
also be a great conversion mechanism. If you've got
Hmm.
a very unique about you story, that can work really, really well. And then the third
Hmm.
is to outsource the creation of great content,
Hmm.
which is leading into more of your world, is the power of someone else talking about you as opposed to you talking about you. So
Wholeheartedly.
getting somebody to do a video that's basically saying George is the best person I've ever met.
Hmm.
This is a crazy song. It means so much to me. It got me through a breakup, and I've never been able to
Go
forget it.
follow
And I owe
George.
him my life. Go follow George. That
Yeah,
is a compelling piece of content.
absolutely.
Live footage also converts really well. Cuts of live footage, any social proof that says to people, I'm not the only one following. The hardest
Yeah.
part, like getting a couple of listeners to fall in love with you, is like not that hard. Just have decent
Mm-mm.
music and people will find it. It's
Absolutely.
that middle period between it's getting mass adoption. It's like most people don't like to be first.
Hmm.
And musicians don't understand that because they always listen to up and coming artists most of the time because they are one, and they want to
Yeah.
feed that engine, and they want people to be them and them to be people. It's like
Yeah.
that's the way they think. And but they so it's hard for them to comprehend the fact that like people don't want to put someone on a car that someone's like, that's whack. Like
Yeah.
they don't want that
Absolutely not.
gamble. There's other people that like love
No.
the Oxford. They're like, give it to me. I've got
Yeah.
every like that's the person you want listening, but there's only one of
Yeah.
them in every four cars. Like
Absolutely.
it's not enough. So really
No.
focusing heavily on trying to grab and garner the attention of those people. And I think understand it's going to take some time, and you're
Hmm.
building step by step, and you have to invest into your business. It's
Yes.
you can't, if you want this to be organic, it'll take a lifetime.
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
it's tough, and it's the same for anyone that's trying to grow anything. You have to invest into it. Like
Absolutely.
if you're going to the gym, you have to invest in a membership. You have to invest in some supplements. You have to invest in eating
Yep.
clean. You have to invest
Yep.
in making the right decisions. There are investments all the way through. Musicians have
Yes.
to do the same thing. If you're starting a company, a clothing company, you have to do the same thing. You have to invest into infrastructure, costs. You have a million things you have to invest into. As musicians, we are
Absolutely.
lucky, or I'm not a musician. As people in the music industry, we're lucky that the product itself can be created at a lower standard more cost effectively.
Yeah.
Obviously, music takes money, but
Yes.
there are levels of product that you can create for social media purposes that are
Hmm.
significantly more cost effective than going and buying 20 units of hoodies to try and sell
Yeah.
to an audience of none.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
we have a good startup capital game. like
Yeah.
effort
Absolutely.
can win here. If you're starting a clothing line, effort can't win. You need to
No.
invest. So
Yeah.
that's my TED talk for today.
I mean, no, I mean, that was, you touched on so many valuable points, to be honest with you. I was just taking mental notes to make sure that I could follow up accordingly. It's one of those things where when you're talking about that, yes, music does take money to make, but it's one of those, it's the cost basis of once there's an initial investment that occurs, it's not necessarily reoccurring if you are able to educate yourself enough to just make compelling enough content to put it out there. Obviously, most artists require a producer, but there's great music that you could rip offline for very small fees on YouTube. Some of these amazing producers put their stuff up for $20 for you to come and lease or license a beat for you to be able to use. Essentially, once your initial startup costs are done and you have the ability to record yourself, to publish it is free. You just essentially just keep recording yourself, trying to find a little bit of a voice of reason for yourself. And if you're going to try and get into this game or break as an artist, the best tidbit of advice that I could give you that correlates back to what you're saying is you definitely need to save an initial budget for marketing, whether it's even a few $100 at a time, whether it's a few $1,000s at a time, which I know may sound like a staggering amount to people who are just starting out in the space. If you have $10 for a product, I would spend $1 on the product and $9 on marketing. Essentially, is how I would break
1,000,000%.
it down mentally for yourself to understand. And one thing that I've found to be very viable and effective over the last year is we've done what's called POV campaigns. Are you familiar with POV campaigns? Do you know what they are?
Look, we work together.
Yes.
Bisa, yes.
Great. So you 100% understand.
100%.
It's POV campaigns, for people who don't understand them, essentially is what Dan is saying. It's when other pages are posting your music, and they use compelling hooks to get people to want to engage and share that soundbite, essentially driven by the visual aspect of the video. So if you have a moody record that sounds like it should be played on a rainy day or at a certain vibe, that's essentially what it gets paired up with. There's a certain POV page where it says, send this to the person you would want to listen to this with on a rainy day. Essentially, send this to the person that this song reminds you of. Send this to the most beautiful girl that you know. And it's essentially clickbait and share bait, that it compels people to want to share it, send it out, and that drives the algorithm up. And the way that it correlates is essentially that your song is designated a popularity score. And people can use platform like Songstats, which are very user friendly. You can look up your artist page, you can look up the name of your song, and you could subscribe to it for monthly data reports. And essentially, your song is given a popularity score. The more that the popularity score rises, with the correlation of more POV pages using it, more influencers using it, which I'm not too big of a, let's just throw the kitchen sink at the wall and essentially drop our whole budget on influencer campaigns. I don't think they're as effective as they once were. The underbelly doesn't push it in the manner that it once did. Like the top heavyweight holders who used to break records day over day, I don't think that's necessarily occurring at the rate that it once was when new platforms like TikTok were at the forefront. I think that's changed a little bit. But essentially, your song is given a popularity score that helps drive it across algorithms. And I apologize, there's a helicopter flying over. And essentially, your song is given a popularity score that then correlates exactly. So who are they chasing?
Some guy running in your backyard in a second.
Literally, it's you catch it on KTLA right now. Dude's hopping the fence, waving at me as he runs by. It's essentially, it correlates back to the algorithm. And I think, as Dan was saying early on, these DSPs and these platforms, they all communicate with one another. It's how they keep track of trends and what's up and coming and what's really moving across the space. And once your popularity score starts to rise, you'll see the correlation to your Spotify and Apple Music and all the DSP backends of how the song continues to rise and just break out algorithmically. So one word of advice, or one bit of advice that I can offer to artists, is try and get yourself aligned with either great third company parties like Rising Tides of the world, great outlets, great companies to work with that help drive those campaigns for artists, because they're not afraid to share the secret sauce. They're not the gatekeepers. They don't keep things at bay. They will educate you in this space. They will help get your music out there, tie it to these pages that are very compelling. And I've seen the correlation between a few artists that we've worked with over the last year that have completely broken out, whether it's even back catalog and taking songs from 2020 and 2021 and reinvigorating the push to the tune of 30, 40, 50,000 streams a day because of successful POV campaigns. It's something that I highly advise that people look into, because it seems to be one of the most compelling outlets for moving and marketing your music today. So, little bit of advice that I offer to upcoming artists: look into POV campaigns, try and get yourself lined with that, and push your music as best as you can, even if it's just to the tune of a few $100s at a time.
Yeah, and I think you've also, when I said the invest into yourself thing, it was kind of a loose statement, and I think there's a bit of challenge around what does that mean? Like as an artist, like what do you mean? Is it $1 million? $5? Like what does it cost to do a marketing campaign? And I think starting place, and I think where every business should start with, and I think artists, just think of yourself as a fucking business.
Mm-hmm.
What is a break even? I spent
Mm-hmm.
$500 on production mix master. I'm going to put $500 into ad spend, which means I have to create $1,000 worth of value on the market to
Mm-hmm.
break even. And by
Mm-hmm.
value, the way you're compensated directly off that value is streams on DSPs. So
Mm-hmm.
how many streams do you have to get to make your money back? And
Mm-hmm.
often that stream number is much less than your current expectations are for that song. So
Yeah.
you're sitting there like, I'll be happy with 1 million streams, but you might break even on 50,000. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you might break
Mm-hmm.
even on 300,000. And the other thing is, if you were selling T-shirts, you would have to put the upfront capital into those T-shirts. And if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't sell them and you didn't market it, you would be stuck with those T-shirts and stuck with that overhead,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Dead
As a
inventory.
musician, you have the same thing. You have a product in a song that cost you money to create. So make your money back.
Mm-hmm.
Drive that song, push that song, market that song through organic means of traffic as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible until you
Mm-hmm.
yield a positive return. And
Yeah,
now you have
absolutely.
a positive cash flowing company, which is at the end of the
Yeah.
day, all any
The
company
only
is
goal.
trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Literally, the name of everybody's game, every single company known to humankind, bar none, you have to make more than you spend.
Yes.
That's it.
Point blank period.
There's no company that's run under a successful company that's run under a different model. Lots of companies run under the other model.
Yeah.
Make less than
Yeah.
you spend.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's not a successful business. And at the
No.
end of the day, as run the numbers, it's very, very easy. I promise. Go to a free ChatGPT account, type in how many
Mm-hmm.
streams do I need to make $500. Cool.
Yeah.
You now know.
Yeah.
So
And
go.
don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like Spotify pays the least. It's the largest platform, but it pays the least amount in regards to return on actual stream count. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Learn how to utilize the other DSPs as well. Publish your music everywhere. Claim your profile everywhere. Stay up to date on editorial pitches through your artist portals on Amazon, on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Tidal. There's a multitude of outlets
Speaking of
for
that,
you
we
to
should bring on the
utilize
guys from
that pay
Audiomack.
well.
You know,
Absolutely. Great
like that.
platform. Great
They're doing
platform.
great things out there. They're trying really hard to compete in this space, and they're doing a great job, especially internationally. And I think the world's bigger than
Yeah.
the United States, as much as America likes to
Yes.
forget that. But it is, and and I think it's really key and really important to just think of yourself as a company. And I say $500 on in some cases an extreme level. If you produce your own stuff and you write your own stuff, you might be spending $50 on someone to mix and master that. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking. We don't need to be talking big money all the time. When you're starting out, the goal is for you to figure that stuff out. And then as you
Absolutely.
grow and as you develop, you might start working with a choreographer, and then that's putting more in, and then you're like, okay, cool, that equates to X amount of streams, and then you get to a point where you have a level of organic streams and monthly listeners that you're not dropping below because you're generating or building a fan base, and then that means you
Yeah.
have more capital to deploy, and then you can start thinking about whether or not you want to work with an independent label to put that money on up front, and then to assist you in ways that aren't just cash. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the game starts to get really interesting for you. But there's no
Of
point in having that
course.
conversation until you got a baseline of understanding of how you want to run your company. You
Yeah,
know,
and understanding all the different entry points of how to recruit fans and all the different outlets for revenue streams as an artist, whether eventually once you hit a certain platform and the demand is there, the live performance aspect, the return on monetization from merchandise and ticket sales and a whole
yep.
slew of different, pinpoints that will allow you to earn as an artist. But it is a slow and steady grind. That's what most people need to understand. You can't look at the basis of certain artists that pop up overnight on your radar and think that that's how it works for everybody. It's definitely that 10-year overnight success flow for a multitude of
100%.
artists. But you can start to create little pockets for yourself to where it's sustainable. Essentially, one of the artists that I was working with, he found an angle that worked for himself on driving his own POV based content. And he was posting his own POV based content 3 to 4 times a day, understanding that each post only starts by reaching 10 to 15% of your initial audience. About 80 to 85% of the audience that it portrays the content to is outside of your following. So that's why it's okay to continue to just press it and press it and press it and keep it flying, because not everybody that follows you, a majority of people that follow you, aren't even going to see the content that day until days later when it shows up in their feed. So he found a little angle that worked for himself with POV. He pushed it. Over the course of a year and a half, we were able to scale him from 6,000 followers to now what is just under 500,000 followers. But along the way, once he crossed the 100,000 following threshold, he used to drink tea in his videos all the time. Like, that would be the basis of what he was doing in the POV video, is he would be brewing some tea in the background. Then he would show himself pouring it. Then he would just drink it. And it just became a part of his thing with the hook text prompt that he would write over the top of the video. Very simple. Essentially, right after he crossed the 100,000 following threshold, a company reached out to him that was a tea company, that they had the whole set and everything and this and that. They offered him a brand sponsorship and a deal to utilize their mug and their brewing station and everything in his videos. And it was enough to offset his salary for a year and a half, essentially allowed him to quit his day-to-day, his 9 to 5, and go full-time with the music and the publishing of the content and the curation of the content. And that's what really allowed him to break out. That's when the expedited growth really started to occur, because then he was able to start going on tour. He went city to city. He started with the small venues as an opening act for other acts that were able to draw a little bit more audience. He's very compelling. He knows how to work a stage. He knows how to tell his story and weave it through his performance, which makes you fall in love with the guy when you see him live and you realize the struggles and his journey and why he's doing it. Also, obviously, it's a given. His music is amazing. He has very compelling music. His sound is amazing, brilliant voice. And essentially, you start to see the correlation and compound effects start to take hold. So in the next coming episodes, we'll definitely start to recruit some of these experts in the space to come on and speak themselves and offer those tidbits and insights into how an artist can essentially advertise themselves, what tools they can continue to utilize. And I think there's just limitless amount of knowledge that people can continue to inherit, but it can be done in a very simplified manner, foot over foot basis of how they can approach it. And I'm excited to touch on that in the coming episodes for sure, and continue to offer that great advice of how people can break out for themselves.
I agree. And I think just to put framework around, what happened with that particular campaign, you've got the fact that he created value.
Yeah.
And he scaled value. He created value to fans because he worked on his craft and he created a strong sound that is iconically his. He scaled that sound, got more eyeballs and garnered more attention through powerful POV campaigns. And then that allowed him to now be interesting to brands. So now he's created value for a brand to attach themselves to him. And then ultimately, through the course of him being able to go full time, continuing to cut his teeth on the music end, continuing to push that forward, he's now interesting to labels. And then labels 100%. Are willing to invest into him. And the value chain runs uphill, and garnering and holding attention and continuing to provide value to the important factors that contribute to your career is the game we're all playing in whatever field we're in. If you're in the advertising industry, if you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, if you're running a clothing company, if you're whatever you're doing, you have to think of everything as value creation.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, it's clear. And the other thing is, the last thing before I promise I'll shut up. One person's opportunity is another person's liability.
Absolutely. Well said.
As a musician, you sit there and you may be complaining about the circumstances of the industry and how your stream rate is so low and everything. But you've got someone else out there that all they want to do is launch their clothing line with a very unique cut that doesn't allow suppliers to make mass production of the product. So the cost of goods is significantly higher, and now they've got a minimum quantity that's 1,000 units, and they can only afford 300 units, and they can't work with the supplier, and that means they can't launch their product. As a musician, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. They're sitting there dying for the opportunity to produce one product once and sell it 1 billion times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every single time someone streams something from you, they are buying from you.
Yes.
They are handing 2.5 minutes of their finite resource of time that they are dedicating to just you. So
Yes.
your job is to appreciate that, love that, be happy with that, and want to scale that and have more and more and more people do the same thing that that person just did. You
So
have the ability.
well said.
You literally have the opportunity. Other people would die for your model. Yes. Would we all love higher stream rates? Of course. But at the end of the day, you have a singular product that is scaled exponentially. That is an
Yes.
opportunity in most people's eyes,
Yes.
just not in ours.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You know?
That's very well said.
And of course I want more. Of course I want all of that. Everyone does. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately it's an asset, not a liability.
Yes, it is. And I think that's a great note to end off on. Great bit of advice. And overall, those who fail are those who quit. So you have to be patient, you have to have the perseverance, and you have to keep pushing. So we'll definitely touch more on that and go more in depth as the time comes and the time allows. We'll get some experts in the marketing space, on the DSP side of things, on the pitch side of things, bring in some label mates, bring in the artists themselves, just a whole tune of people that could help touch on that insight across all industries and all topics that we continue to touch on. I appreciate you each and every time for being the best co-host in the world, and I appreciate
I even
you.
have a note on this piece of paper that says do it earlier.
Nah, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be too smooth with it, man. I'm never ever gonna let you get it.
Nah,
I'll
brother,
literally
you're
cut
a
the
killer.
episode. But I appreciate you time and time again, brother. Thank you for your valuable insight and your energy. I appreciate you always, and I'm looking forward to many more of these, and appreciate everybody who took the time to listen.
Enjoy.
God bless. Ciao.
I keep touching my screen like it's a touch screen.